special projects. So most of your money will be those 20 budgets that you have in the general fund, and you'll look at the breakdown in a few minutes. That's the breakdown of the general fund. This is the financial report. When you look at the financial report that I provide to the board on a monthly basis, you see the financial statements. Anything that starts with a 101 through 199 is part of the general fund. Every single one of those that you see there has its own budget. It's separate budget. The M&O, of course, is the one we talk about the most because that's the one we have more discretion to use the funds. That's your special revenues. In the budget for next year, you have your summer one. You have also a grant that we apply for special ed. You also have your instructional materials allotment that Mr. Camarillo and handles. That's for all the textbooks and so forth. And then you have your campus activity funds, 461. The debt service, that's a debt. We have two tax rates. We have an M&O tax rate and a debt tax rate. Both are going to be significantly reduced for next year. This is a year for next year when we adopt the tax rate. The tax rate is going to go down by about more than 8%. It's never happened. And this is a year that we're able to pay some debt, so that the debt is going to go down, so our tax rate is going to be less. And we're also reducing the tax rate in the M&O because that's House Bill 3. We're required to reduce the tax rate. So you're going to see that there will be some relief there to the community. The tax rate is going to substantially go down, almost 10 pennies, almost 10 cents, which usually that's a bond issuance, a big bond issuance. 10 cents is usually a $30, $40 million bond issuance. So that's how much the tax rate is going to go down by for next year. And then you have your capital projects. Now you can see most of the money. As you see there, it has the different funds. And then again, you see that most of it is on your M&O. Now we're not looking at the general fund. This is all the general fund, all the 20 funds, budgets that we talked about it. When you break it down, you have most of your money in the budget for the M&O fund. And all the other ones that you see there are state mandated programs. That's why they have a separate budget. We're required to have food service. We're required to have transportation. We're required to have CATE. CATE is required by law to have. So all those programs that you see there, they're there because they're required by statute. This is a graph. So where is your money coming from? And a lot of people don't see that the state agency is the one that mostly funds our budget. It's not the taxpayers. The taxpayers you see there, they only fund 18% of the budget. Everything else is funded from non-taxes, from either the federal government that you see there, or other local and state revenues. So that way you can see where most of the money is coming from. Now we're very careful with the taxes because it has a correlation with the money that the state gives us. If you don't collect taxes, you get less money from the state. That's just the way the formula works. And that's why school districts are very careful with their collections. This is what we have on the appropriations, where the money is going out. You see the big pie, almost half or more than half is on the M&O side, which is very common. This is another slide. This is something that's done in the private sector mostly than in the school district sector, but I like to put it in there. That way you can see that, and I was explaining to the budget committee this afternoon during lunch, for them to realize that over 80% of the money is salary. It's a fixed cost. There's really nothing you can do with that. Now, if you don't manage your staffing correctly, you're going to be spending more than you need, and that's where you're going to be losing a lot of money. We're at a very low percentage there. We're at 81%. It's usually between 81 and 85%. We're closer to the 80% than the 85%. And that's attributed that we run a very tight ship, and we try to maximize our staffing in accordance with the enrollment that we have and other factors that we put into play in calculating how we handle our staffing. These are all the budgets. You want to look at the budgets, again, it starts with 101. It's all the budgets that we have in the district. We have 55 different budgets, and you can see there who's responsible for it. Like you see the ones for special ed, Ms. Elizabeth Torres is responsible for that one, and you have different directors. We always have a director, we call it a program director, assigned to every specific budget. We have a program director in the district. That program director is responsible to make sure that all the compliance and all the requirements are met, because if you don't, you can easily lose funding. We had a situation this last year, and luckily you're gonna see on the agenda that we were able to appeal what happened, the PIMS information, and we were able to get close to $5 million back to the school district. So that's a responsibility of every program director in every different program that we have. This is the budget, and this is the way the budget looks. As you see it, it's a very straightforward budget. Your revenues are pretty much the same revenues this year and pretty much the same revenues that we're putting there for next year. And you see that we're not adding anything to the budget yet. So the budget is pretty much the same budget this year compared to next year. The subsidies, everything's pretty much the same. So there's nothing there that's gonna make us financially worsen our situation or make it better for us. It's a very realistic budget that we have there. And you see the enrollment at the bottom, the peak enrollment. We've been hit with a peak enrollment every year that has started, and we're hoping that next year we go back to a peak enrollment of 14,140. This is the actual budget. This what will be submitted through PIMS. This is the format. You have the groups there, the general fund, which has 20 budgets, and they're all summarized and added here. Then you have your food service. Then you have your special revenues, debt service, and capital projects. On the food service side, we have to put it to the separately when we do our budget. That's a federal program, and even though at times it might look that we're putting it as part of our M&O fund, we cannot do that. We have to have it separate, and that's why it's separate there, so that everybody will know that we're not combining the food service funds with our general fund. And I've done it like that for many years, and the auditors like to see that. The whole budget is there. You look, it's at 81%. When you go to the bottom, it tells you the percent of salaries and so forth. This is everything that's in the budget, every fund. You wanna look at a fund, you just pick it here, and it's gonna tell you what's in salaries, what's in contracted service, supplies, others, and so forth. And it's pretty consistent from year to year. You see an asterisk on those, and I'll cover those in a few minutes. If you see an asterisk like food service and transportation, that means that the M&O is subsidizing those programs. That means that the funds that they receive is not enough, and we have to pay it from the M&O fund. We're not required, but the school district needs those programs. The revenues, again, last year to this year, the same revenues that we're putting in there. We're hoping that our enrollment will go up to what it needs to be this coming year. So there's no deviation there. On the next one, there's no deviation on the appropriations either for the M&O. 86.5 million this year, 86.5 million next year. This is a very interesting chart, and it'll tell a story for a period of time, a very interesting story. The first graph at the top is your tax rate. And for a lot of people that really don't understand or don't know what's going on in the school district, that chart's gonna tell you that our tax rate has gone down every year. It started at 117, it went to 106, it went to 105, it went to a little bit below 105 last year, and this year's going to 98 pennies. So you see there that contrary to what the perception might be out there that we increase our taxes, APISD has not increased the taxes in the last years. They've only been going down, the tax rate. The other thing on that, which is not very common, is the fund balance. When you see that the tax rates are going down, your fund balance usually doesn't go up. It goes down because your taxes are going down. Here it's the other way around. We started, if you look at 1920, 17.4 million. Then 2021, we more than doubled the fund balance. And then at the end of this year, we'll probably be going at 63 million, and then at about 70 million in 2023. That's a very good, because right now there's a lot of uncertainty. The reason we've been able to do so well is because the state has built this out for 3 years. There's been 3 years of COVID, and every year the state has given us home harmless, has given us funding. The first year that it happened, they gave us funding 100%. Last year and this year, they're gonna give us funding again. So it's good that we're in this situation, because we don't know if the state's gonna give us relief for next year. They've given us relief for the last 3 years, but we don't know what's gonna happen for next year. So in a perspective like this, if we had not gotten relief from TA at all this year, we would have lost about $11 million just in the ADA. However, TA is giving us relief this year. So just side note there is that it's a good situation that we're in, because we're preparing, because we don't know what's gonna happen. And also, whenever there's violence or something like that in the news, we do see a reduction in attendance also. We only get funded based on attendance, not on enrollment. Enrollment does not come in any of these factors. If the students are not in school, we don't get money for it, okay? So that gives you a very good picture of our financial position that we have. And it looks good, and hopefully in the next future, in the next year or so, we'll be able to manage our attendance a little bit better. I know there's things that we cannot control. This is the fund balance that I go over every year with the board. We have 51.7 million. That was our fund balance that we started. That's audited. Those are audited figures. We're hoping that this year, when everything's said and done, that we'll have some type of surplus. Like I told you, we're supposed to lose about $11 million from the attendance. However, TA is going to give us some relief. We've been waiting to see exactly how much relief are they going to give us, where they're going to give us 8 million, and we only have to be short 3 million, or how many millions they're going to give us. They're going to give us at least half of that 10 million, because our attendance rate went down by a lot. So we know we should be getting some money. So that should pretty much be very close. It'll probably be 63 million. It might be 60 million. It might be 58 million. But I'm pretty sure that this year we're going to have a surplus. We're not going to have a deficit in our finances, for sure. We will have a surplus. When I mean a surplus, that means that it's going to go up from the 51.7, but not down. And then you have the next year, the ESSER funds. We're maximizing all the ESSER funds, and that's going to go help us also by about 7 million. So that'll bring it up to $70.7 million. And then the last year of the ESSER funds will be 23-24, as you see there. And we should be able to get another 7 million. So we're looking at about 77.7 million at the end of 23-24. Are there any questions on the fund balance? And then again, this is what we've been reviewing every month. I mean, we've constantly been going over this information. This is just the general fund. It's the same thing. All the funds put together, it's pretty close. It's 78 at the end versus 77. So that's another calculation that I do for other purposes, for the financial rating agencies that require that so we can keep our rating as we have it. And then this gives you an idea. If you want to know what 652 million, is that a lot? There on the next slide you see, and you compare yourself to all the other districts. And what I like to look at is where it says general fund balance percentage. We're at 43.2. Anybody that's below 43.2 has a lesser fund balance compared to expenditures when compared to the school district. Anybody that's higher than that 43.2 has a bigger fund balance compared to their expenditures. So now that we're at that amount, before when we were at 17, we had the worst percentage. But now we don't have 17 million, we have 52 million. So we're not the highest, as you see there. There's some of them that are at 60% and at 56% and 55%, but we're not at the lowest anymore. So I think we're pretty much getting to the middle of this, the fund balance, because a lot of times we don't know, well, what's a good fund balance? What's a bad fund balance? Well, the only thing you can notice is when you compare yourself to other school districts. This is what we spend on a monthly basis. I gave you there the expenditures per month. It is a big operation. We spend about $12.3 million per month. And a big portion of that is our payroll. As you see, the payrolls are at 4.8, and then you have other payrolls that are bigger. The one in September was bigger because that's when we had the bonus to employees. We gave that bonus to employees last year, and that's why that one's way up. We're talking about subsidies. That's money that the MNO pretty much gives away to the other programs. We're not required to, but we do. And there you see the different programs. You have athletics, you have the bilingual program, which we have a lot of bilingual students. You have the tax notes. The tax notes there, that's an E-rate. The one that we did, the one for retrofitting the different buildings in our district. As you see there, next year the payment's gonna be $583. This year we're gonna save over $700,000. So we're not just gonna have enough to pay the payment, we're gonna have money left over. So just so the board to know, congratulations on all of you, because that was a very, very good deal that was done with the right vendor. And it doesn't always work like that, but for us, it's been working for about 3 years already. And those are the subsidies. You see it in a spreadsheet. Those are all the subsidies that we subsidize. Just a note on food service. I know it says there 1.6 million. We're waiting on food service. I'm almost pretty sure that we're not going to have to subsidize food service. When it has to do with money, they've been doing really well. And just to congratulate the food service, at least on the finance part of it, they're doing a lot better than we've done in previous years. These are the projects. Yes, we have projects. We've been doing projects. And a lot of times we don't discuss those projects, but we have been doing projects, and we've been doing a lot of projects. And Mr. Mijares Samuel likes to invest on the school district more so than anybody else. And we've been doing a lot of them, and this is just so you can get a listings of the projects. We also have there the baseball and softball project that we're looking at doing. Mr. Powell, when we get to the agenda of the ranking criteria, he'll be making a presentation which is similar to what we have here. There you see the breakdowns. Now you can see exactly the breakdown of that 5.5 million, exactly where the money's going and what is it going to fund and what the expenditures are projected at. So, and then those are other projects that we have. You go on the next page, those are ongoing projects and others. We are working, as we talked to the committee today. Mr. Mijares Samuel made it very, very aware to the committee that we're working, and we are doing it. And sometimes we have to wait because the supply chain is behind because of COVID or because of other matters. We don't get the materials when we need to. It's not because we haven't ordered them, but we're doing rollouts and we're doing all the logs, all the access controls for all the schools. We're doing the rollouts with the cameras, even at the elementaries. I already instructed our purchasing director to do that, Mr. Velez, and we're doing everything we can. And sometimes we're delayed because the supplies are not available, and they delay us a month or two or several months behind. And we're also doing all the fire alarms. I mean, fire alarms, and those they're costly, but we're also doing those. And we cannot do all of them at once. It's just a matter of how the vendor is able to do a school at a time. But those are all happening in the background. Those are the things we had pending from this is exactly what I presented to you last year. It's just the same thing. These are the prior projects that we've done. They're there. And then the next slide is also all the different projects that we've done since the majority of these board members that I have here, they've been here, and most of you have been here to see these projects. Those are the fire extinguishers, fire lines. We've done a lot of different things. The infrastructure is very expensive. There were things that were not being done and needed to be done. These are the salary increases. Salary increases is always part of the budget. It's part of the salaries. As you see, most of the cost goes into salaries. In the last 6 years, as you see there, you see the percentages that we've given in the last 6 years. We spent over 20.1 or $20.2 million in salary increases. And you can do the math there, and this is a fixed cost. Once you give a salary increase, it's there permanently. You have to fund it on a yearly basis. So that just gives you a rundown of that. Once you add the projects we've done and you put the math to it, and the salary increases, we've invested $72 million. Once you start adding everything up, and then we have a $63 million fund balance projected at the end of the year. So that means if we had not invested that, we would have $135.7 million in fund balance. It's very easy to accumulate fund balance when you don't do any projects and you don't invest on the district. The thing is having a balance and investing in the district, but also having a balance with a fund balance. You have to understand that you have to do both. There's some districts that have a very high fund balance and they don't have the facilities that we have. I know a couple of districts that hoard the money and they never invested on anything, and their facilities are horrible. And as you see here, we've invested more money than what we have in fund balance, $72 million. This is something that I like to put out every time so that you can get an idea how taxes work. As I was saying, taxes, and it's important that we collect taxes. Just so you can see there, if you were to collect 2.9 taxes at 12 cents, $2.9 million in taxes, the state will give you 7.4 million or 7.5 million. So you see the effort of the district at 2.9 million, but the effort of the state is much more. We're putting in the table 2.9 million and they're giving us 7.5 million. And that's how you get to the 10.5 million overall. And a lot of people don't understand. The city of Eagle Pass cannot do that. The county cannot do that. And believe me, they could do it, they would be doing it because it's a win-win situation. You're getting 72% or 72 pennies on a dollar. You're putting 28 pennies and they're giving you 72 pennies. It's a really, really good deal. We use this for the, when we had the rollback election, the TRE, and luckily it was passed, and if that hadn't passed, we could not be doing anything that we're doing right now. Those 72 million, that was the key, and we got the support of all the board members, and I'm glad we were able to pass that, because after we passed it, you cannot pass a TRE anymore. How ironic, right? That we just did it at the right time. And that mechanism is there. If we ever want to go for a bond issuance, just so everybody will know, we all get excited on bond issuances. You do have to increase taxes. However, it is not very, it is not advantageous to the district to go for a bond issuance because the bond issuance does not have state funding matching like this. The only thing that has this is if you were to increase your taxes, now it would require another TRE. And it's not like when we had it, you would have to get, there's a lot of steps that you have to take, which makes it very difficult to be able to pass a TRE. It's not like before that we would just call it and take it out for votes, and if we get more votes, we win the TRE, which is what happened with us. Now you have to go through certain steps. One would be that we have to get audited, and somebody else has to come and audit our operations, and they have to indicate that we do need the TRE. Attendance is the other big thing in enrollment. We're hit with enrollment. The top one is enrollment. The bottom one is attendance. And as you see in this year, 21-22, that's when we have had the lowest ADA and the lowest enrollment. It's a big dip there. And you saw it in 2021, 21-22. I'm hoping that at least it's gonna go not to where it was before, but the way I have the budget projected is that I'm hoping that it'll go at least slightly up to where it was back in 2021, which we already had COVID. And the reason we haven't been hit is because for 2021, for 21-22, and even for 19-20, even though this is like this, the state has given us relief and given us funding for the reduction in ADA. So financially, we haven't felt it hasn't affected our finances. Next year, we'll see what happens with the enrollment and the attendance. That's one of the things we're going to be looking at. This is so you can see the idea when I tell you about millions of dollars. 5%, which is 653 ADAs, which is half of what we lost, less than half. It's almost $5 million in funding. You see here, it's not 600. When you look here in this slide, this comes straight from PIMS. This is a PIMS report. You see 2021, ADA 13,162, 21-22, 11,725. We lost 1,437 ADAs, more than the 600 that we just saw. That was about $5 million. TA is gonna give us relief. I went ahead and presented that to the board about 3 months ago, and they are gonna help us for this year with that. Tax rate, and this is our tax rate compared to other school districts. You see the one for 2020, we're practically one of the lowest tax rates. And even for 2021, once we drop the pennies, the 9 pennies that we're gonna drop, we'll probably be one of the lowest tax rates in the state of Texas. Okay. These are just the calculations I do. On top of the tax rate, there's gonna be an additional 40,000 homestead exemption for every person. So they're just not gonna see the drop of the tax rate, they're gonna see an additional 40,000 in homestead exemption. So they're really the taxpayers are really gonna notice, because both things are happening at the same time. Those are just the calculations. Those continue to be in the calculations that we had the previous year. Page 50. This is the calendar. Nothing has changed with the calendar. We were gonna do this workshop in August. Even though we're doing it now, in August I'm still gonna have to take some schedules and some reports to the board. So we're still gonna have budget information in the August board meeting. And then we're gonna have the budget approved on August the 16th. So we're pretty much gonna stay on schedule. These are the tax rates, as you see that they've been going down, and they're gonna continue going down. This one, so you can see, and I have to explain this to you, it's on one of the topics. I believe it's topic number 5. I have to go over this with the board. If I don't, I get penalized on my rating. They will drop 10 points on my rating. And what we need to realize how values work. These are state values, and they're very tricky. State values, if you don't know how to work with them, you can get in a lot of trouble. And when you look at that number, the number there, number 2, to the left it says 2. That's what our values were for this year. It affects at 21, 22. Different values for different fiscal years affect different budgets. So that was 2.7. We had to calculate that, and you see below it, it says EPIZ estimate. That's what I estimated. I estimated 2.738, and that's billions of dollars. So you see how I estimated that, and the state came at 2.7. If I miscalculate this, that means my whole budget is gonna be wrong, and all of a sudden you're gonna see millions of dollars disappearing from the budget. So that's why I put it there, so you'll see how close we are to our projections. And the state wants me to tell the school board that values are always a year behind. So then you see there on 1A, you see that I'm projecting it has a 19.97 increase in values. It's off the charts, guys. We've never had a 19.7 I'm projecting that. I don't have it from TA. That's what the budget's based on. And I have to project it, and I have to check to make sure that maybe it should be 2% the way it's been every year, or 4%. Because if I don't calculate that, there's a funding lag. They call it the funding lag, and they call it lag because it's always gonna be a year behind, and you're always gonna be to be calculated in the future without actually having the data that's more precise. Before, they will use the values a year behind. So you would use the values for the prior year, so there was no room for error. You had the number. You didn't have to calculate it. Now they're making us project it. And guess when I'm gonna know? As you see there, January of next year, when the budget has already been in place for many months, TA will come up with their number. Mr. Mijares Samuel will get it. They only give it to him, and then he'll give it to me. And then at that point, I'll know where we're at. I'm very confident with the $3.2 million projection that I have there, because I'm looking at the appraisal district. We work with the appraisal district, and values are going up drastically. Some of you board members have mentioned that are in this industry, that understand this, that unfortunately the values have been going up, and we don't get to keep the money. Whatever the amount that we get more money because of the value component only, the state will reduce it from our summary of finances. The ones that get to keep the money is the state, not the school district. So that's a very good area that they want us to make sure that we all are on the same page when it has to do with the funding and the state values and the lag. They call it a lag there, but now it's a projection. And then those are all the factors that we use to make sure we're in compliance with everything that TA requires us to do. We actually have to submit a report. We're gonna get our tax rate. Once we submit the report, I go to Samuel, he has to certify it, and then TA will send us our tax rate. We don't calculate the tax rate anymore. TA sends it to us electronically. So it'll be interesting what they calculate, because I'm projecting it at 98 pennies. So it'll be interesting what, if TA says that it's 105, that it's gonna stay the same, then there's not gonna be a tax reduction. It'll be 105. But we've already looked at it, and we feel that it will be going down to 98 pennies. These are the different information that you have to, that affects funding. This literally, everything that you have here, every component that you have here is gonna affect your state funding. I developed this maybe about 20 years before it wasn't. And the reason I put it in 3 years, because we need to see the trend. Sometimes if you're preparing the budget and you're doing something or whatever, and you don't put it side by side so you can see it, you can have a big oversight. And you see there on the last column, on number 13 to the right, you see where I have the 98 pennies on the M&O tax rate. That's what we're going with. And you see how the values are going up from the state when it has to do with our district. This is a debt. A lot of times we asked, well, how much do we owe? How much is a district owe, and the debt that they have? And that's the debt we have. We have $40.3 million. We pay about $3 million a year in debt. And these are the schools that we have to pay the debt for. That $40.3 million is to pay the SAC. We're still paying the SAC, to pay Armando Serna, to pay Perfecto Mancha, to pay Steel Liberty, H.P. Gonzalez, and Pete Gallegos, all those things. And it might look like a lot, but one of the things that you need to realize, that a lot of people don't realize by looking at it, is that the state is paying a big portion of it. Every debt, every bond election that we passed since I've been here, every single one of them, we go because there's state funding, and the state's gonna pay most of it. So out of that money, the state's paying most of it. We're paying a fraction. There's not that money, those funds are not available anymore, but when they were available, that's when we passed our bond issuances. And when you hear all these names that I said, yes, this all that were passed with the bond issuance, all these campuses that I mentioned, even the SAC. So the state funding is very important because that reduces the tax rate that you have to levy. And then you see there when the ones I told you we paid one this year, 8/15/2022, we're gonna pay it, and that's why when I do the INS for next year, the tax rate's gonna go down. Another thing here you see where the state is paying us on every single dollar. You see here when you look at number 16, EDA entitlement, they're paying $7,743, and the district is paying $12,000. So it's $19,000 that debt payment, which is a very minimal amount, but the state is paying us. We're not paying it on our own. And then this is the other big one, IFA entitlement, they're paying $935,000, and we're paying $2 million. It has state funding. This is what's gonna come in the newspaper when we advertise. You see the 98 pennies, you see the 6 pennies, and you see that it went from 105 in the M&O to 98 pennies. It went from 0.09531 to 0.0641 on the INS. So both, it's rare that this happens, by the way, but the M&O is going down and so is the INS. Both of them are going down. So you're gonna be going from 114.6 to 105.2. Okay. This is just a summary of all the raises that we've given every year. And they do accumulate, as you see there. Those are the administrators. Those are the professionals, which means the teachers, registered nurses, counselors, and so forth. Paraprofessionals. And just so you can have it, that way you can look at when you're looking at salary proposals. Okay. This is a breakdown when you're looking at a salary proposal. Most of the money goes to teachers. 64% of the salary increase that if there's one approved, 64% will be going out to the teachers, counselors, registered nurses, and librarians. And the reason being is because there are more of them. It's about 1,000 of them, or 945. You're gonna see the breakdown right now. And then the other percentages, they have less, the numbers are less, the individual numbers of the positions. This is just what we use so that you can do the math, whatever you want to do with the math. All those numbers have been checked. This is just all the other requirements, a step that we talk about and everything. And the step, I'm going to tell you one thing about the step. If we decide to increase the hiring schedule for professionals, which means teachers, from 49,500 to a higher amount, you have to calculate a step because there's a step in each year, and you have to calculate it because that's the way the state requires us to do, and they have a schedule. So whenever you're gonna increase that 49,500, you need to make sure that you do you're gonna have to take the step into consideration, because that's increasing the hiring schedule from 49,500 to whatever amount it's going to be. Here you have the other calculation, which is the same numbers, and the superintendent will be making the motion. Again, the same type of worksheet. It's just numbers and whatever you want to put in there. These are the ones that we have. If there's a 1%, it's going to cost you $1.2 million that we discussed, and it gives you more of information. It tells you how many employees are in those positions. Like I told you, the professionals, it's about 1,000. It's 112 and 808. You add them up, and it's almost 1,000 and 900 and something, right? And then you have, and the other one, administrators, we have pay grade 14, 37, 3, and pay grade 16, which is a lot of them principals, 34, and you have a little bit more information there. The cost is still the same. And then you have a 4%, it goes from 1.2 to $4.2 million. And it tells you there, if we were to go to 4%, then we can do something with the hiring schedule, the starting hiring schedule for the teachers. We're now at 49,500. If we go to the 4%, we have to keep the steps as you see them there, but we're able to increase it to $52,000, trying to maximize the increase by also increasing the starting salary for teachers. The next one, at 5.1, starting salary teacher will be $52,750. The current teachers would get more than that. They would get those are the amounts that you see there, $3,253.80 plus the step $50. Total raise $3,303. And then 5 years or more, they're gonna get a different amount, and the total amount will be $3,353. And then you have the 5.5%. So all those are different. We're not saying one or the other, we're just showing the difference between one and the other. That's it. This is if we were to go to 53,000 on the hiring schedule, which is the last option that I showed you. Our hiring schedule would be based on 53,000, and you see how we have to have the steps. We're required. I said, what's a step? We're required to have the step. That's a schedule we have to have, and we have to show what the state minimum per step is. We have to show where our local salary is per step, and we need to make sure we never go below. So you have to have it. Whether it confuses people or not, it's required by law. We have to make sure that PASD is paying more for each of these steps, which is 20, than what the state requires. And the calculation has to be there. This is what we're at right now, 49,500. It's a big difference from the 53,000. This is something that sometimes we don't realize. EPISD pays more than Northside, the teachers that are with us. Our average salary is $63,768. We're higher than any of those districts that you see there. We're $8,792 than the state average. And when I say teacher's average, let's not confuse that from beginning teacher salary. I'm saying the average from 1 year experience all the way to 49, and you're gonna see the breakdown. I'll show you. There's teachers that have 49 years of experience. They get the average because it's impossible to be comparing individual slots, and that's why the state has average. Yes?
What you just said, it's average teacher salary.
Average,
Okay.
average.
Very important.
They had to bell curve, and they had to get from the lowest to the beginning, and what's bringing that amount higher is not that 1 year teacher's average. Those are the ones that are bringing the average down. The ones that are bringing the average up are the ones that have been with the district for many years. So we need to realize we cannot say, well, it's because we're paying this. No, that's the way it's done by the state, not by us. So the state gives us their average and they compare it to our average, and we're $8,792. What some districts do is that they pay their beginning teachers $58,000. And then they put them on a step. They don't give them increases. They're put on a step, and they get a very minimal amount. They start them very aggressively at first, but then they don't reward the teachers that have been there for a long time, and that's why we're paying so much, because when we give raises, we give it on the average. And the average is always gonna be higher than most of the 60 or 80 people that we have, because there's very few teachers that are making, that have 49, and you're gonna see it right now, because I'm gonna show you the breakdown, because I needed for you to see the breakdown of where the teachers fall. And you're gonna see that most of our teachers are gonna be falling below the average, which necessarily means that half of them are not, and half of them, but that's just the way that the system is. So the 54,976, sometimes it changes, and sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on whatever every district gives every year in salary increases. So that amount might change next year. This is the one for this year. It's 21, 22. The figures that you're seeing right there, they're not a year behind. They're this year's salaries. And this is before any salary increases. Depending how all the other districts give the raise, then we might have a different state average. But that's what it tells you, that the average is, if somebody leaves our district, that's why it's happened. And we've met with those employees. They leave the district, and then they find out that they lost $6,000 or $7,000, $10,000, and then they want to come back to the district, and now they're new hirees. We cannot pay them what they were making 3 years ago when they left the district. Now we use a schedule, and the schedule is going to be a lot less than the people that stay with us. Those are the only ones. Those are the ones that keep the equity of the salary increases. So it's a very interesting that we're the highest for all those districts. And when you look at Northside is a very rich district. Very rich district. You should see their central office. Yeah, it's about a 20 level office. So here, the 63,000, they have the 924 employees we have under that category, which are the teachers, librarians, counselors, and registered nurses. There's 924 of them. This is the breakdown that I told you we were going to go over. And this is all professionals. Ahorita, I'm going to show you the ones only for the 4 protected categories, which is teachers, counselors, registered nurses, and librarians. It's the next slide. But look at the next slide. We have one that has 49 years of experience. We have one that has 45, 44, 2. You see? And the majority are the ones that are on the other side of the bell curve. This is a structure that we have for administrators. We've had this structure for many, many years. And that way you can see all the positions there. You want to know about a principal? Like I told you, principals are pay grade 16. That's where you have your elementary principals. You want to know about principals at the secondary? You have one at 17, which are the junior high, and then you have the one that's at the high school's pay grade 18. Those are the secondary are the only ones that have a higher pay grade. All the other elementary principals are under pay grade 16. That's what they get paid. That's a calculation we have to do when we decide what the raise is going to be, if there's going to be any raise increase. These are your paraprofessionals. We've done some changes. All the changes are here. And that's where they fall. If you want to know about a certain position in the district, it tells you even the number of days that they work. And that's what they're going to get paid next year. Very, very important here on pay grade 13, pay grade 3. We're trying to get the rate to the $15. Right now it's $15. If you're gonna work at Walmart or wherever, they're paying $15. That's what they're paying. And even though the amount of the minimum wage hasn't gone down, but it's also for us to realize that at the paraprofessional level, we're paying more than double than the minimum wage. And I think that's really good, because if we have a change in the minimum wage, we're already that far ahead that we don't need to do anything to this schedule. That's a calculation that we do, and then these are the manual trades. These are your manual labor, your bus drivers. You have all the different positions there. We have pay grade 56, which is the highest pay grade for the manual trades. Those are top level, supervisory level positions. This is what we pay. And then that's just a calculation. If you want to know, on page 94, all the positions, I'm giving you there every single position in the district, and I'm giving you the count. That way you can know how many diagnosticians do we have, it's there. How many CADE counselors do we have, it's there. Every single position, those are the professionals. The 924, it ties into the number we're talking about right now. And then you have the administrators. Those are the different pay grades. You saw the schedule. You want to know what a 14, you can go to the schedule. We have 37. Those are 37 of. It's a count. Paraprofessionals, manual trades, and then you have your part-times and your substitutes. We have a total of 2,300 employees. Those are the ones we have to pay every week, every 2 weeks. It's quite a bit. It's a big force, labor force that we have. This is the health insurance. Health insurance is going up by 5% next year. I explained to the committee the district will be paying that increase. The 5% will not be passed over to the employee. the school district will be paying the 5%. And this is already included in there. You have a 0%, as you see there. We have the same rates that we've had for many years. We have not increased the contribution to employees for many, many, many years, and we have not reduced benefits. And we pay 90%. There's not a plan out there that pays 90%. I'm pretty sure some of you have health insurance outside the district. We pay 90%, and we have the lowest deductible. So no misinformation out there. The school district will be paying the 5% increase in that. This is, I know Dr. Alvarez asked me a question last budget on the when we compare it to other districts. That's what we pay for employees with spouse, $344. Our employees pay less than any other district. There's some districts that if they were there, they would have to pay double. Look at Uvalde. You would be paying double than what you pay here. The school district, again, pays the least amount to be insured that's passed over to the employee. No one beats us on that. This is the annual. They pay $4,138, which is the lowest that they pay to have the employee and spouse, employee, in all the different categories. In the employee spouse, employee and children, and employee family, we're the lowest compared to every single category. And why is that? Because we have not increased the rates for the employees for many, many, many years. We're doing rates probably that we had in 2008 or even before that. Somebody has to pay the bill, and this tells you what the districts are paying towards health insurance on behalf of the employee that the district pays from their budget. We pay $898. We pay more than any other district. And you look at the annual, we pay $10,776. That's what we pay for every employee in the district. EPISD pays that much. It's like an increase. If you look at Harlandale, which is in San Antonio, you take a beginning teacher salary at, let's suppose they were paying $60,000, right? Let's suppose we're paying $53,000. The difference in this more than makes up that, and you don't get taxed for it. When you're on your earnings, you get taxed on it. This is non-taxable. These are the rates. I know Ms. Purcell sometimes asks me about the rates. You have every single French benefit there. You have what we're paying this year, what we're paying next year, what we'll be paying all the way to 24, 25. She asked something about whether TRS rate's going to go up or not, and you have it there. You have it there until the 24-25 school year. And you see they're all very consistent. We're self-funded on most of these things. We're self-funded on health insurance. When I mean self-funded, that means we run it. We don't have an insurance carrier run it for us. We do the finances, we do everything. We do the health insurance, we do the workers' comp, we do the unemployment. We do those here in-house, and all of them have a surplus. There are additional requests like every year. You all got that book. It's always the same amount, more or less, of all the different campuses. A lot of the stuff is facilities. I mean, you have a lot of things there. I'm looking at athletics, and it has a big amount. Well, we need to realize that we are going to be doing a big portion here. The softball complex is going to cost $5.5 million. And if we wait longer, it's going to cost you a lot more. So, yes, that's something that we didn't know how we were going to fund that, and it's on the agenda, and we appealed the PIMS data, and we were able to get $4.6 million. That's one of the budget amendments, and we're going to be using that money to do the softball field, if the board approves it. And then this is what I show you every month. All this ties into all the information that I just presented. It has to tie in. Everything's there. It's all the financial. See how I tell you anything that starts with a 1, that's a general fund, all the way to 199, and then it's a general fund. It adds up all those funds, and then you go to the special revenue. It's all in that format. This is something I developed maybe, again, like 20 years ago. So that concludes the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions. Okay.
Any questions from the board? No. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mr. Mijares, thank you. You and your staff for all the work. Very, very informative, and thank you very much. As we move from the first budget workshop, we move to district reports and presentations. We will take 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Is that correct, Mr. Mijares? 1 through 5? All right.
Are there any questions, just to specify that we continue to doing well with the tax collections? Everything's in the up and up with that. The utilities, we're gonna be saving close to $700,000, like I said, so it's unreflected on the report. And the financial statements is pretty much what I presented today. I don't know if there are any questions on the reports.
Any questions for Mr. Mijares? Nope. Then we will move to item 7, action items. Number 1, consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve the procurement method of competitive sealed proposals and the ranking criteria for baseball and softball field improvements at the Lynn Purcell Student Activity Center in accordance with Board Policy CV, CVB, and state guidelines. Mr. Mijares?
Yes, this is to take the proposal for the softball fields. We are looking at installing AstroTurf on the baseball and softball fields and doing other improvements. And if this is any question, Mr. Mijares and Mr. Salinas are here.
Yes, I just wanted to say that Mr. Powell is here. He's gonna go over the procurement requirements, what we're gonna go ahead and do bids for, and the items that we're gonna go ahead and use co-ops to make purchases, so that we can procure all the things that we specified on the report. He's the one that's gonna make that representation.
Gentlemen of the board, y'all hear me all right? Okay?
Yes.
We're good? Okay. I'm going to be making a recommendation this evening on, or giving a professional opinion on the best way to acquire the services that you need for this particular project. This includes, like Mr. Mijares mentioned, new turf, new bleachers, new scoreboards, new fencing, and a new covered structure and associated cooling system. And I think that's everything.
Mr.
Yeah.
Pell, I'm
Yes.
sorry. So you're including the girls softball, the boys baseball, and the turf on the actual football field plus the bleachers at the SAC?
Not the football field.
Not
This
the
is
football
all
field.
baseball and softball related.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, that being said, there's a couple of issues at play here, primarily cost and time. I know that the district is anxious to get the turf replaced and usable. And taking these things into consideration, my recommendation is to pursue the turf, the bleachers, the new seats, and the scoreboards from the buy board. The buy board is basically a procurement method from public entities, usually for specific items. The buy board is a fair price, has a fair price mechanism because these vendors that are on the buy board have gone through a bid process on a statewide level. So there is a certain amount of bidding involved in becoming a vendor on the buy board. So when you factor in time and money and the fact that you don't have to go through the 3-month design, bid, build process, time-wise, certainly the buy board offers the highest advantage. Secondly, because we're dealing with specific vendors, if we put them under a general contractor's contract, you will be paying markup on these same items. And usually a general contractor's markup's in the neighborhood of 12 to 18%. So you also have an advantage in cost as well when you're dealing with specific items such as turf, such as bleachers, such as scoreboards. So the first part of my recommendation is to use the buy board for those items. And again, that's turf, bleachers, seats, and scoreboards. The other part of the project, that's a little more, has a few more trades involved where we'd be digging foundations for footings for the canopy structure that'll cover the seats, doing the fencing work. And in that regard, I think that we could go to a general contracting mechanism or a design, bid, build process and actually save money and allow local vendors to more likely participate in the project. So the second part of my recommendation is for the covered canopy, the cooling system, the outfield fencing to be provided by the design, bid, build, procurement method. I did write a recommendation letter, just so you know kind of the breakdown on each one of those components. The turf is by far the largest, which would come in around $2.6 million for replacement of the turf and at the softball and the baseball fields. The bleachers are at $1.25 million. The scoreboards are $160,000, and then we think the canopy structure would be in the neighborhood of $1.5 million. So those are my recommendations. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Do you have any questions from the board? If no questions, do we have a motion on the recommendation by Mr. Powell? We have a motion by Mr. Perry, Trustee Perry.
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Hiller. Any other questions? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. We will now move to item number 2. Consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Universidad Politécnica de Piedras Negras and Eagle Pass ISD beginning the 2022-2023 school year. Mr. Mijares?
Yes, this is
No. Yes.
Yes, this is a very simple MOU. Last year, it was around April or May that some of our cabinet members went to visit la Universidad Politécnica en Piedras Negras. We went and we were able to visit the building, the different degree plans that they have. They have English and Spanish. They have an English program and with several degrees. So we were able to get a tour, and there's several options where if our students want to get a degree and get a job at the maquiladoras or anything like that, that's a viable option, and the tuition is very friendly. So this is just for us to be able to work together so that they can come and, be part of our university presentations.
Very good. Do we have a motion for item number 2?
I so move.
Motion by trustee Purcell. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by trustee Fuentes. No more questions. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you. Number 3, consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve the renewal of annual software support and maintenance agreement contracts. Mr. Mijares?
Yes, this is the annual contracts we bring to the board every year. I think the cost is pretty similar to last year, and if you have any questions, we have Mr. David Camarillo to answer any questions.
Pretty much the same as last year, same.
Yep. With the exception of 2 new ones that we have there, item numbers 34 is a brand-new one that we're considering. And it's a new software to help our counseling staff and our students in the CCMR monitoring,
And the what, I'm sorry?
career, college and military readiness component, so we can, and also, it's a very robust software that's pretty inexpensive, but it's only for secondary students to monitor primarily CCMR. And there's other components that we can do, personal graduation plan monitoring and implementation, along with, there's a scholarship portal, there's a professional development, communication, two-way communication with our junior high kids and high school kids. So it's a very robust software that we're considering, and that's the only ones that we're considering. We do have some others that we haven't included in the past, but that we do use through our other commitments and through our buy boards and co-ops. But this should be a pretty extensive list of all the software that's used in CNI and informational and instructional technology. So there is a slight increase because we do include some software. The second item that's new there is item 32 with Sentinel. That's our cybersecurity compliant antivirus software it's an addition to the threats that we all are facing in today's society. So
It's getting
just
higher and higher, so-
extra layer of protection. We're starting with all our staff computers, and every single unit should be covered with this amount of money, if approved tonight.
Very needed.
Any other questions? Most of
Questions?
them, as you can see in the second to the last column, it'll tell you how many years we've actually used them in the district. And there's quite a few of them that been here for quite a long time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Camarillo, we don't have any of those items. Just,
You should have this
On the
agenda. It's
additional.
right behind your agenda.
got it. And just, what is the name of the new software that you're including?
The new one is item number 32. It's through a commitment through Region 20. It's called Sentinel One. It's cybersecurity compliant antivirus software.
Okay.
And then item number 34, which is by School Links, and it's also through a co-op, and that's the one I was talking about, the CCMR, 4-year planning, annual course requests, scholarship portal, PGPs, electronic signatures. One of the most difficult times that we have is getting students to, and parents to sign off on their 4-year plans. And this would facilitate for them to do it online and sign electronically through this portal, and then transfer that information into what we call our Student Information System, or our SIS, where everything has to reside so we can report it to the state.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No. Is there a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Hitter, trustee Hitter.
Second?
We have a second. Trustee Perry. Any other questions? If not, all in favor? All opposed? None. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Camarillo.
Thank you.
Number 4, consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve the agreement between College Board and Eagle Pass ISD to purchase SAT exams for secondary campuses, and the board delegates the superintendent or designee the authority to make related budgeted purchases of goods or services as per board policy CH.
Yes, this is an item so that we can buy our SATs to our secondaries. Yes, this is an item so that we can buy SATs for secondary students, and again, we have Mr. Camarillo if the board has any questions.
This is now the third year that we bring this initiative. The state is now providing one-time allotment for a student while he's in high school for a college entrance exam. So we're taking advantage of this, and we used to test every single 10th and 11th grader with PSAT for the NMSQT or National Merit Scholar Program. We've extended that, not only including the PSAT, but through this process and because of the state funding that's allowed us to include all 11th graders for SAT and all 12th graders for SAT as well. So they get to take it at least twice. The state picks up part of the tab once, and then we pick up the tab that we've always done. But when we do the suite like this, with this contract, we get, and you can see in there, we get quite a discount, roughly about $52,000 discount. And of course, not taking into consideration the part that the state pays for it. So in reality, even though it's $105,000 for the total suite, the district doesn't end up paying the whole amount. So in the long run, we are saving ourselves money and allowing students to take the test, more practice. They get a practice in 9th grade, in 10th grade, they get a practice in 11th grade in the fall, and then those same students in the 11th grade get the entrance exam to the SAT or the full version of it in the spring of their junior year, so they can, in their senior year, be ready to apply for college. And then our seniors also get a second opportunity in case they didn't do so well, or in case they just want to improve their scores, to be able to take it one more time free of charge in the fall of their senior year before they apply. And this is all done with a purpose, that they have 2 opportunities and 4 total opportunities in high school at a practice or a real SAT test.
Good. Do you have any questions? If not, do we have a motion?
So move.
Motion by trustee Purcell. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second by trustee Martinez. No other questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Number 5, consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve the memorandum of understanding between Eagle Pass ISD and Southwest Texas Junior College for the 2022-2023 school year to provide the EPHS and CCWHS health science students the opportunity to obtain a certification in dual credit in these courses: certified nurse aide, certified medical technician, phlebotomy, electrocardiography technician. George Harris.
Yes, this is a renewal, and of course, any questions, again, we have Mr. Camarillo.
Just don't ask me to pronounce that.
Say them all.
The same word, because I'll probably
3
have trouble
times.
as well. But this contract we bring in every year is for our existing program with the college. And the major change here is the fee, and it's not a major, but it's the only change that we're seeing, the fee and the administration of the certifications exam at the end of the program. Whether it's, we do certifications in the fall and in the spring for certain courses.
I was gonna say, this is really good for our students.
We do have We do have, and you'll see in the contract, we do have one cohort for each of them except the CMT program. We have 2 cohorts of that one.
Nice. Electrocardiography. All right, very good. Any questions? Do we have a motion?
I so move.
A motion by trustee Martinez. Do we have a second? Second. Second by Dr. Alvarez. Trustee Dr. Alvarez. No more questions? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Now we will move to consent items. We will take 1 through 21 under consideration. If you have any questions. One question I think everybody wants to know. The tortillas. What are we getting?
What tortillas are we getting?
What's the question? On the tortillas. The bid was, it was the same as the other vendor, so we decided to go with the vendor that we have right now, since it was a tie amount.
Which is, it is Aritos.
Uh-huh, it's the same, yeah.
The green.
I have a question. What is the advantage of going to a 3-year contract on some of these?
Yes, the advantage is that we're able to lock in the price. And right now, everything's been going up. And we've done that also with the electricity. I think I have a contract all the way to 2033 or something like that. Yeah, because we lock into the price, and that way we make sure that there's no price increases.
Do we have a clause that if the price goes down drastically, we can revisit it?
Yes,
Okay.
So basically, they can hold for 3 years, even though if their costs go up, they have to hold?
correct. I mean, they have up to December, right, every year, that they can ask for a price increase, but then we would have to evaluate it based on the market. But that usually doesn't happen.
In agreements, either us or them.
Yes,
can
it's there,
always-
but it usually doesn't happen. It's just part of the procurement
Usually it
procedures.
doesn't happen. You don't want to.
No, we don't want to advertise it, yes.
Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion to pass consent items?
So moved.
We have a motion by trustee Hiller. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Purcell. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Consent items pass. I don't know what's here. We will, thank you. The Board of Trustees of the Eagle Pass Independent School District will convene in closed session as authorized by the Texas Government Code, Chapter 551, to deliberate upon the following matters. Item number 1, the board will hear the request to approve personal contracts as presented. The board will hear the request to hire a professional employee to serve as principal, subject to possible future reassignment by the superintendent. The board will hear the request to hire professional employees to serve as instructional officers, subject to possible future reassignment by the superintendent. The board will hear the request to hire personnel to fill vacancies pursuant to TGC 551.074, and the board will consult with his attorney regarding legal issues relating to the superintendent's annual compensation plan recommendation for the 2022-2023 school year to include employee pay increases and salary step increase amounts for professionals as included in the budget TGC 551.071. Do I have a motion to convene in closed session? We have a motion by trustee Fuentes and a second by trustee Purcell. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. The time is 7:01, and the date is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. And the Board of Trustees is now in closed session, and no action will be taken in closed session. All right, the time is 7:45 PM. The date is Tuesday, July 12, 2022, and the Board of Trustees of the Eagle Pass Independent School District is now in open session, and we will move to item number 10. Number 1, consider and take appropriate action on the request to approve personal contracts as presented.
Move to approve personnel contracts as discussed in closed session.
We have a motion by trustee Purcell. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Fuentes. Comments, questions? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes.
I am sorry. I wasn't thinking. I raised my hand opposed.
Oh, no,
For both.
it's in favor.
Yes.
So motion passes unanimous. Number 2, consider and take appropriate action on the request to hire a professional employee to serve as principal, subject to possible future reassignment by the superintendent.
Yes, Mr. President. I move to approve the request to hire Ms. Diana Alvarado to serve as principal, subject to possible future reassignment by the superintendent as discussed in closed session.
We have a motion by trustee Fuentes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Dr. Alvarez. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Number 3, consider and take appropriate action on the request to hire professional employees to serve as instructional officers, subject to possible future reassignment by the superintendent.
I move to approve the request to hire Jacqueline Jimenez and Mario Mata to serve as instructional officers, subject to possible future reassignment by the superintendent, as discussed in closed session.
We have a motion by Dr. Alvarez. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Martinez. No more questions. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Number 4, consider and take appropriate action on the request to hire personnel to fill vacancies pursuant to TGC 551.074.
Mr. President, I move to approve the request to hire professional personnel to fill vacancies pursuant to TGC 551.074 as discussed in closed session.
We have a motion by trustee Hiller. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by trustee Perry. No. Questions? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Number 5, consider to take appropriate action on the superintendent's annual compensation plan recommendation for the 2022-2023 school district to include employee pay increases and salary step increase amounts for professionals as included in the budget TGC 551.071. No. Yes. No. Yes.
Yes. Yes, I'm recommending a 5.5 salary increase for all full-time teachers, counselors, librarians, and RNs based on the teacher average salary plus local step for a total increase of $3,558 for 1 to 4 years experience, or $3,608 per year for 5 or more years of experience based on 187 days. Also, a 5.5 salary increase for all other full-time, part-time food service, part-time transportation, and other part-time employees who are eligible for fringe benefits based on the midpoint of the employee's pay grade. To be eligible for the salary increase, employees must have completed their 21-22 working calendar. The new starting salary for teachers and other professionals has increased to $53,000 for the 2022-2023 school year.
There is a recommendation by the superintendent. Is there a motion?
I so move.
We have a motion by trustee Martinez. We have a second by trustee Fuentes. Questions, comments? If not, all in favor? All opposed? Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mijares, and congratulations to everyone.
I just want to thank the board. The employees deserve a healthy raise. They've been working very hard for the last, for a long time already, considering we had to deal with COVID. Now we have to deal with safety. And teachers, we have the hardest working teachers in the state. And we have the hardest working administrators and professionals and support staff. You know, they always come to work. They're always there for our students. So I want to thank the board. I also want to remind that we're not done yet, because next month we will take the retention bonus. There will be, the board will consider the retention bonus for the next school year. So we're not done yet, and we'll have, understand the employees, this is the first phase. The raise, I think everybody wanted to know what it was. That way, you know, you can calculate. Some of you want to stay longer because of the raise for retirement purposes. That's why we brought it a little bit early. But we will consider the bonus in the August board meeting.
Once again, congratulations to all of our professionals, all of our teachers. And good job for all that everybody does. We've had some tough years, but you all have pushed ahead, and very good job. We will now move to correspondence or information. Do we have any information?
Just a reminder that Wednesday, July 13th, which is tomorrow, we have a joint workshop with the City of Eagle Pass Waterworks, Eagle Pass City Council, and the Mary County Commissioners Court. Just a reminder, it's at
3:30.
At 3:30? At the ITC. New TEA and Texas State requirements, School Safety and Security Committee. We have a requirement that we need to meet in the committee. It's going to be July 20th, I believe. We must have 2 board members. The requirement is the board president needs to be there. So I just wanted to know if anybody wants to, any of the board members wants to volunteer to be in that committee. This is for the School Safety and Security Committee. Yeah, we have to have one more. Okay. Mr. Hiller has volunteered. We must meet 3 times a year. Sorry, I should have done this before volunteer, Mr. Hiller. But we must meet 3 times a year, 2 during the school year and 1 in the summer, okay? First meeting will be July 20th, 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. So congratulations, Mr. Hiller, and thank you for volunteering.
Now we move to adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? All opposed? None. Time 7:54. Meeting is adjourned.